life for the first people of Appalachia was dramatically different from today. The people were fiercely independent, rugged, and self-reliant. But Europeans were not first to call these mountains home. By our best understanding, the first peoples were Native American tribes like the Cherokee. They covered a territory as vast as nearly 7 states, from which I have ancestors. Now, European traders and trappers began coming to the Appalachian frontier in the early 1600s, and for the most part, they had peaceful relationships with the Native Americans. It wasn't until the early 1700s that life became so oppressive in Europe that the reality of vast tracts of free and open lands drove European people to cross oceans in hopes of reaching this new world that they had previously only heard about. The predominant groups to settle in Appalachia were the Scotch-Irish and Germans, and this is their story. Hi, I'm Josh, and this is Mountain Roots. If you're following my Exploring Appalachia series, this will be a more intentional look at the region from long ago. I hope to incorporate these types of mini-documentaries with my exploration of Appalachian towns. Now, it's been said when Europeans came to America that each culture would bring with them their own distinct customs and traditions. For example, when the English arrived, they would build churches because of their piety. When the Germans came, due to their bent towards engineering and order, they would build great and stout barns to last for centuries. But when the Scots-Irish arrived, they would build whiskey stills for medicine, bartering, and yes, recreational purposes. This long-established folk custom has contributed to the lore and legend of mountain culture more than just about anything. Even though these lands were home to Native Americans, coming to these mountains would have seemed like vast wilderness to those migrating from Europe. Virgin stands of timber that their eyes would have seen would have been beyond comprehension for both them and us today. Although most all of this once untouched forest has since been cut down across Appalachia, there are small old-growth stands that remain, like the Joyce-Kilmer Forest in the Unicoi Mountains just south of the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. Early Appalachians would have needed to possess the skills necessary to build whatever they needed. From cabins to fences, wagons and agricultural implements to baskets and brooms. If they didn't make it or grow it, they simply didn't have it. Now, Appalachia extends north of western Pennsylvania to somewhere southwest of Alabama, but I'm primarily focusing on life in the central to southern Appalachian highlands. Sure, there are commonalities across Appalachia, but these folks were an industrious people. The environment around them compelled them to be so. Blacksmithing was likely one of the most critical of all the trades in early Appalachia. Smiths would have to make everything from horseshoes to nails to door latches and pot holders, as well as parts for rifles and wagons. They also made the tools needed for cabin building, like axes for chopping down trees and splitting firewood, to froes for splitting log rounds into wood shakes or shingles, and draw knives for shaping tool handles. From my personal experience, this is no easy trade to learn, much less master. In a time without modern manufacturing, blacksmiths were critical. A lot went into calling a house a home in old Appalachia. Not only were hard skills like blacksmithing essential, but weaving, sewing, and all-around self-reliance was paramount. Remember how I said earlier they thought of whiskey as medicine? Not only was it used to sanitize and calm the nerves, but out in the deep dark hills of Appalachia they had to be their own doctors, as none were nearby. They would practice everything from faith healing to using Granny's home remedies, much of which was local knowledge of medicinal plants and herbs learned from Native Americans. Many would keep some kind of livestock. Having hogs marked by an ear notch and turned loose to graze the diverse forest once home to the abundant American chestnut was common practice. Most Appalachian homesteads would have chickens, and like you see here, they would train sapling tree branches by hanging things off of them to bend out over time to form a roost for their birds. Although a lot of labor was done by hand or draft power like oxen or mules, in time folks also harnessed the power of water using a water wheel, which in turn was able to power millstones for grinding grains and also powering sawmills to turn logs to lumber. Not everything was just about hard work and survival. No, there were things to sweeten life too. Back in those days, sugar wasn't readily available like it is today. So in the mountains of Appalachia, they grew sorghum instead of sugar cane. They would use a mule to turn the grinding wheels, and once the sorghum was ready for harvest, the cane would be fed through the wheels and the juices squeezed out. Then the juice would be cooked down in the evaporating pan until the right color was achieved, letting them know their molasses was ready. This tradition is still carried on in some mountain communities like my own to this very day. Not only would this sweeten life, folks would gather round for music for their entertainment. The banjo, coming from the banjier, became a very popular instrument. And to this day, many great musicians come from Appalachia, as it has a rich musical heritage. I hope you enjoyed early Appalachians and how they lived. Let me know in the comments of this video or send me an email if you did, and I'll try making more like this in the future.